specific issue?
I
may know.
About Sting?
Yeah.
No way.
Okay.
Don't believe
Thanks
it.
for your time, guys.
Impossible.
Okay. Hey, let's go to Mike in Connecticut.
Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Doing good.
Brian, how are you? Mr. Hurt, just a couple questions, and I'll kind of keep it very brief.
Go ahead.
Just a comment before I start. I'm probably one in the minority. I thought it was the right decision to let Flair go in '91.
Really?
Just because
you were in the minority.
Just because something doesn't work out doesn't mean it wasn't the right thing to do. And had Flair stayed around, they wouldn't have been forced to get as creative with the booking at the top as they may have. Flair may have been a crutch to rely on for another year or two. You know, and just because Luger couldn't carry the company doesn't mean it wasn't worth a try.
I agree.
At some point, you have to try something. If it doesn't work, doesn't mean it wasn't the right thing to do. With that in mind, actually...
Whoa, wait a minute. I'm confused. If it doesn't work, it was the wrong thing to do.
If something doesn't work, sometimes, you know, you could give your best effort.
No, I know where you're coming from, but Luger wasn't the right thing to do either because... on every level, the Luger was champion.
No,
it didn't
agree
connect.
with you, but I didn't want to go as far as to, then criticize Luger for being the choice. But, you know, getting Flair out of there still would have been the decision to make. Luger was the wrong guy to go with at that time. But at least Flair leaving forced him. Maybe you could, somebody else could have stepped in. Maybe try Sting again. I don't know. I mean, that's going back 10 years.
The problem was Flair was so entrenched that when Flair left, it really caused a revolt among the fans.
Yeah, exactly.
You remember all those "We Want Flair" chants at all those arenas for a year straight till Watts brought him back.
So the argument could even be made that Flair should have been moved out of there a year ago. By his staying another year or two in '89-'90, probably, forced a reliance, a crippling effect on the company in terms of creativity. That's what happens when guys stay just a little bit too long. It becomes a comfort level type thing.
I think Flair, as far as '89.
Yeah, '89-'90.
90 it got, a lot of things got bad in 90.
Guys, you got to remember one thing. Flair was the booker, in charge of the booking committee in '89.
90, yeah.
Oh, geez, you couldn't.
90.
You couldn't tell that with him on top. My question, two questions, Jim. With that having been said, if you had been able to work things out with Flair in July of '91, do you remember what direction you were going to take? Obviously, he was going to drop the title, probably Luger. That plan was still in place. But what would you have done with him had he signed a 2-year extension at that point?
Well, number one, as I remember it, yes, we were going to take our chances on a Luger, and probably that would have been a mistake in retrospect. But we had very few ways to go for a champion.
That's right.
We had Sting. We tried to. In fact, we one time tried to split the Road Warriors. To see if we can move one of them up the tree, and Hawk went on the ceiling in a hotel in Chicago, and we had to pull him down. He was so mad. Anyway, and that's
where Russo got the idea, Brian.
Hey, yeah.
But we had very few ways to go as it relates to a champion of the stature of Ric Flair.
Okay.
And so you deal with what you got.
Well, and my second question now, Dave may remember this being quite the historian that he is, but in '90 there was during the summer of '90 on one of your Saturday night the Saturday night show, you had promoted one week that you were bringing Larry Zbyszko in and billing him as the AWA champion, and at that time it caused a little bit of a talk, and it was the dying days of the AWA, obviously, but if you think about it, it was the perfect match for the last ditch to save the company, maybe as an interpromotional thing. He was billed to appear the next week, and he never did. Was there anything behind the scenes in terms of trying to work with the AWA at that point?
No, I got, it's funny, but Zbyszko and I got along famously and never had any contract problems. As I remember it, and hey, 10 years is a long time to look at some of these scenarios. It's once again you're in the dusty roads deal, and you're trying to break through what some people would call a Booker glass ceiling.
God, he cast a big shadow, didn't he?
Yes, he did, and it just didn't happen. So, and Zbyszko, but Zbyszko's a great guy, great performer.
Good. Well, thank you for taking my call, Dave, Brian, Mr. Hurd. Take care. Have a good weekend.
My pleasure.
Bye now.
Okay, thanks so much. The one thing I think that crippled everyone is in Ric Flair in the '80s, especially in '89. Ric Flair set a standard inside the ring, and he was, Ric Flair was of all the guys that you had. Clearly, at that point, he was the best all-around performer.
By far.
Yeah. I mean, Bobby Eaton was very good in the ring. Barry Windham was also very good in the ring, but Ric Flair had the whole act together that they didn't have in areas that they didn't have. And when you try to go with whether it was a Stinger or a Luger or somebody, I thought they were all great climbing. People would get behind them climbing, but then when they were in the position, they were in Ric Flair's position, all of a sudden everybody looked and goes, they can't do a 30-minute match, and they can't do a promo, and they can't sell tickets on top. And it was one of those things where, because Ric Flair could do everything so well, and what would end up happening, like 100 times, is that they would go with the guy, and then it would be like, God, and then they'd go back to Ric Flair. It was it was the crutch.
That's right.
Because
the gentleman that caught 2 calls ago, so he's right. We had to rely heavily on Flair. And let me tell you something. Now, I don't know that you've ever seen Ric Flair wear out a stair stepper, but this guy was an absolute phenomenon for being in shape. And you're right, he could go 40, whatever you ask him to go. You want him to go an hour, he'd say fine. He would blow up everybody. I mean, that's just it. We tried to develop some new young talent, but it didn't work out. And as the history will record it, the company under Eric may have got more ratings, but it lost 3-4 times as much money as we did.
in the long run, because they mortgaged their future for 2 good years.
Exactly.
Real quick, we got a full bank of phone calls for Jim Herd. I just want to get through a couple of things. It's from Joe Bradley, who says, you were talking about what Taz was calling Perry Saturn's Death Valley Driver, but you didn't know what he was saying. I'm pretty sure he calls it the moss-covered 3-handled family credenza. As far as what that means, I have no idea. I have no idea either. It says, Mean Gene announced last night that Paul Heyman has sold ECW and fled to the WWF. If this isn't true, then WCW should watch what they say. Come on, Mean Gene.
They should watch what they say.
Mean Gene of the last 10 years?
Next thing you know, it's going to be Above the Love Sponge, and confirmed.
Oh, my God. Let's see. Let's go to Mike in California. Mike, what's going on?
Not much. Are you there?
Yeah.
I'm here, yes.
Okay. Hey, Jim Hearn, I have one quick question for you and then something else for Dave.
Go ahead.
What's the best match that you saw while you were working for WCW? What was the best match you saw put on by the company?
Oh, the best match that I saw may have not been available over here unless Dave retrieved it from Japan when the Steiner brothers. David, what's the name of that?
With Hossein Sasaki? A lot of people saw that here.
Great.
That was a great match.
And,
1991.
Yes. One of the great matches of all time, as far as I'm concerned, going back lots of years. It was an absolute shoot match. That's when they broke did they break his leg that night, or?
Oh, no, wait, that's a different one. The one, there was a match with Iizuka. That was in, I think, Jacksonville?
Yes.
I'm not sure. Was it one where Fujinami and Iizuka wrestled the Steiner brothers?
Right.
Where Iizuka got hurt real bad.
Yes.
That was in the States. The Hossein Sasaki was the one at the Tokyo Dome.
Great matches. And Flair had some great matches, too.
And my other thing is for you guys, Dave and Brian. I don't know, maybe Jim's familiar with it, too, and I'd like to get his opinion. But why would Jim Ross still be plugging and hyping up China's book after, it's been uncovered that a lot of it's just BS? And, I mean, why would he even want to, disgrace his little Ross report by even plugging a loser book like that?
Because it's number 3 in the bestseller list.
Hasn't report that he liked it yet.
Because he's afraid China will stomp him.
Hey, they plugged Rock's book, too.
Yeah.
You know?
I just want to get that thing to number 1.
I mean, it's just like, hey, the worst thing that happened, or the best thing, I don't know which, was Foley's book, because Foley's book set a standard, and now every single wrestling book by the WWF is going to, well, I won't say they'll all be terrible. Maybe these last 2 were just bad. Even, if Foley had written an average book, these last 2 still would have been bad books. What can I say? But it's their product. Hey, if they put on a really bad pay-per-view, Ross has to come out on Monday and sell the replay, still has to sell the replay.
Yeah.
And,
some of the things that he has to plug, he might not want to plug, but he does.
Yeah, like Friends last Saturday night. How do you like that?
let me tell you, I know Ross very, very well, and Ross places no ability at all to not plug whatever Vince says, babe. And if he wants China's plugged, it's plugged.
All right, and I kind of came to the hypothesis of why China did turn her back on all those people, and it was because ever since she was a young baby, she was used to those people, the people she respected and taught everything, to turn her back on her. So I think she wanted to turn her back on everybody before. She's used to like the way her parents like abandoned her, so to speak. I think that she just wanted to turn her back on all these people because she's used to having people turn their backs on her. And I don't know. Do you guys agree with that?
I don't know if it's necessarily that she wants to, but I'm sure that's what it is.
Yeah, I think it's.
I mean, you can't read the book and not know that her childhood was just a mess.
Yeah,
but but there's a certain bitterness that